What does it really mean for an AI to think? Today, we're diving deep into Interview Angular, build deploy tooling. Angular talent is judged at the boundary between code and production. Components prove you can build screens, but build and deploy tooling proves you can ship systems. Angular for CLI production configuration and rendering strategy form the release chain. Hosting, linting, formatting, and CI/CD complete the release chain. Master that chain, and you stop sounding like a feature coder, start sounding like someone trusted with a product. In real interviews, this is where seniority becomes visible. But here's where it gets interesting. The build is the first architecture decision. The bottleneck is not writing Angular code. Next, it is turning a local app into a predictable artifact. Importantly, a weak answer treats deployment as uploading files after ng build. More specifically, a strong answer explains configurations and output paths. Notably, it covers source maps, budgets, and environment replacement. Also, static hosting rules and server rendering are important. Thus, rollback safety is a key consideration. Production begins before the code ever reaches a server. That gap is why interviewers push past syntax into release judgment. So, what's the real problem? Let's talk about local convenience becomes production risk. Development settings optimize feedback, not resilience. Source maps help debugging but may expose source structure if shipped carelessly. Environment files switch API targets, yet they are bundled into client JavaScript. Secrets do not belong in environment files. Notably, the interview trap is simple. Build pipelines leak assumptions. Production becomes a public copy of your mistakes. Thus, the dangerous parts are usually invisible during local development. This raises a critical question. The CLI turns intent into artifact. Angular CLI is not just a generator, it's the control plane for the workspace. Next, Angular.json defines targets builders, configurations, and output behavior. Importantly, ng-build applies production defaults, and configuration selects environment rules. Thus, good candidates can trace how one command becomes optimized HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. More specifically, the CLI is the map from developer intention to browser payload. Now let's zoom in on configuration. Is a deployment contract. Environment strategy should separate public runtime configuration from private infrastructure secrets. Use environment.ts for safe values, like API-based URLs or feature flags. Use backend proxies or secret managers for tokens and credentials. Importantly, environment files do not secure the business, they customize the client bundle. Misplacing that boundary is a production smell. Thus, keeping secrets out of the client is essential for security. Here's something most people overlook. Optimization is not a checkbox. A production build must reduce payload and enforce budgets. Debugging should remain intentional throughout the process. Minification tree shaking, AOT compilation hashing, and source map choices affect load time, cache behavior, and incident response are also impacted by these decisions. The best interview answer links build options to user experience. Smaller bundles load faster, and hashed assets cache safely. Budgets help prevent performance decay before users notice it. Optimization is about governance, not just cosmetic cleanup. Think about this for a second. Rendering strategy decides first impression. Angular can ship as CSR, SSG, or hybrid rendering. CSR is simple and portable, but the browser does most of the first load work. SSR sends rendered HTML earlier, and hydration reuses that HTML when the client takes over. Angular universal terminology still appears in Teams, but modern Angular frames this as server and hybrid rendering. The rendering choice determines what users and crawlers see first, and this is where things get complex. Deployment is a routing problem first. Next, Firebase, Vercel, Netlify, Nginx, Docker, and CDNs can host Angular. Importantly, they must respect client-side routing, thus deep links such as users42 need fallback to index.html more specifically, unless SSR handles the root. Notably, the artifact is portable, the server contract is not optional. Most failed Angular deployments are routing misconfigurations wearing infrastructure clothing. Shipping Angular means aligning browser history with server behavior, but here's where it gets interesting. Containers make the artifact repeatable. Docker adds value when teams need the same build and serve behavior everywhere. Next, a common pattern builds Angular in one stage and serves static files with Nginx. Importantly, this does not make the front end magically secure. Thus, it makes the delivery surface reproducible. More specifically, reproducibility is what operations teams hear, notably when a developer says, "It works on my machine." Containers turn deployment from memory into a portable recipe. So what's the real problem? Let's talk about CI/CD becomes the release memory. A serious Angular workflow runs install, lint, format check, tests, build, and deployment from version control. Next, pull requests should create preview environments when the platform supports it. Importantly, main branch releases should be automated, observable, and reversible. CI/CD is not decoration. It is institutional memory that prevents every deployment from depending on one developer's laptop. Thus, automation turns release confidence into a repeatable system. This raises a critical question. Quality gates protect the codebase. ESLint protects Angular and TypeScript rules before runtime. Pretier removes formatting debate before review. Together, they turn style template mistakes and unsafe patterns into fast feedback. The strategic point is not prettier code, it is lower review noise and fewer silent regressions. Mature teams automate tastes so humans can review architecture behavior, and risk consistency becomes a team asset, not a personal preference. Now let's zoom in on the interview signal is ownership. The winning answer ties the chain together. CLI configuration creates the artifact environment's shape safe variation. Production builds optimize delivery. Rendering strategy improves first. Load hosting respects routing. Docker repeats infrastructure. CI/CD enforces quality. Companies hire for that ownership. Angular is not finished when the component renders, it is finished when the system can be shipped, maintained, and trusted. That is the difference between building Angular and operating Angular.